Depression and anxiety are among the most common mental health conditions experienced by young people. Research findings suggest that 1 in 6 young people aged 15 to 24 often feel depressed or have little interest in doing things or are worried, nervous, or anxious. This is Youth Connect, and I am Fatima Ahmed Musa, your host. On today's episode, we will be talking about mental health and how it's affecting the youths. I have with me to discuss these issues Coach Jeff Oluwagbemiga. He is a psychologist and a family practitioner. And Abdulrahman Saibo is a researcher and a social affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
We will go on a quick break. When we return, the discussion commences proper. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Youth Connect on Trust TV. Coach, let me start with you. There's a saying that goes, there's no health without mental health.
Yeah.
And when we say mental health, a lot of people tend to think when you say mental health, they compare it to mental health or mental illness. How can we differentiate the two? Because the first thing that comes to people's mind is madness. So how can we differentiate mental health and mental illness?
Thank you very much. I think the very first point where we got it wrong is when you mentioned the word mental. People just think madness, colo, and all those things. But mental health is just like the health that we know, the normal one, meaning that you are okay, you are able to do what you need to do. For example, if you have malaria, it will hinder you from doing some things. So if your mental health is poor, there will be wrong cognition. You will not be able to coordinate properly, meaning that you will not be able to achieve what you intend to achieve. What used to be exciting to you now may no longer be as exciting, and you might not be able to contribute meaningfully to your community. So when you experience that, you might not be having malaria, you might not be having a headache, but your body, soul, and spirit are not in sync. And that's the easiest way to explain what mental health is, meaning that your cognition, your ability to think properly, your ability to cope with stressful situations. You know, stress also have positive or negative. Your ability to maintain simple decorum is still functioning. Then we say you have positive mental health or your mental health is okay. But when those things are no longer there, you're not able to connect. Your response to situations is not how it's supposed to be. It's outside the norm. Then people begin to think there's something wrong with the person. But the word mad is not, we don't even use the word mad. We don't use that at all. We either say you are behaving unhealthy, your behavior is unhealthy, or your behavior is healthy. Okay.
According to research, mental health can be caused by many things, and one of which is genetic. How can one be able to pick the things that maybe you can actually inherit? Maybe it's from family to family. Is it possible to inherit mental health issues from family?
Okay, it's correct actually. But I like to say that there's the nature and the nurture. The nature is the gene we're talking about. But it's been also discovered that nurture will always trump over nature. Meaning that even if it runs in the family, especially schizophrenia, have been found to be genetic. Then depression might not be genetic, but it can be learned. Things that if you're sitting around people that are depressed, or you are a child that grew up with depressed parents, you might pick all those cues. So in terms of genetic, you cannot control it because things that are genetic are born with you. You can't. But I don't always like people to go that way because it can be an excuse for people that say it's in their genes, so they cannot change, you cannot submit to therapy because it's in our gene. Yes, it might be in your gene, but therapy can help. Treatment can help. You understand? But to decipher if one's challenge is genetic or is behavioral, you need to get to the hospital to do that. You need to actually do a lot of tests to do that.
Okay, Abdulrahman, let me come to you. You have been in the field, and I'm sure you've encountered so many people maybe that have gone through one mental health issue or the other. I don't know if you have, but what have you seen so far? What can you say the experience is like for you?
Well, absolutely. To talk of mental health in general, I think the whole thing lies on the premise of the person's ability to recognize what they've accomplished to a meter of what they should accomplish, or rather, to put in another way, who I was to what I want to be or who I want to become. So in that space of the gap that is between, that is where the mental health lies, the process. So thinking experts, the people that study the systems thinking, they will tell you there are 3 parameters to thinking. The perception unit, the point, the process point, and then the end point, which is usually the conclusion. So usually in young people, you find that gap that has a lacuna, psychologists will call it lacuna, a gap, a very void, because they tend not to have something
to fill
to fill that gap. So basically the problem here is, I believe, my personal opinion now, is the upbringing nowadays. Children are being raised without, purposes, if I may say, or meaning in life. Parents do not care to actually give children the right meaning about what life is all about, what reality is all about. All the concern about is go to school, get good results, and come back home. And what after home? And that's where you find young people, teenagers, and teaming up to have all these and anxieties, all these mental health issues. And the reason is because they don't have the sense that they have a purpose in life. They have something they have meaning for, something they can achieve, something they could do. So that's the main premise where all these things comes from. So I may say in young people, they tend to want to fill the gap always, because human beings, like any other creature, we want to strive to become something. We want to have meaning, that sense of existence. Why am I here? So they tend to just dive into whatever comes next. Now, what comes next now is the internet. That's the simplest thing that they can find, easiest. So they have unlimited access to the internet. They go, they surf, and whatever comes that shoots up the dopamine, that's what they stick to. So I believe that too contributes to the modern day OCD. You find, I've seen so many young people that confess to me, I cannot sleep without my phone. I cannot. The first thing I do when I wake up is check my phone, and I have to go online and check what's happening, what's trending. So all that OCD is then starts becoming a problem. Why? Because without something, it will tend to have them come back to them and start to reflect themselves. So once they start to introspect, that's when they realize, oh, I don't have much meaning. I'm not doing anything. Like, I have friends or family, someone that's achieving something, but I'm not doing anything. So this device is the only resort I have, or rather.
Okay, I'm happy you spoke about children and the upbringing. Coach, do you think there's a tendency a child who has been abused at a very young age could grow up with the post-traumatic disorder, or trauma, should I say, and it may tend to surface later in their later life, or in their particular stage?
Almost 100%, because a child is growing in the formative years. He or she begin to see a whole lot of things, and those things, the brain does not forget. All those trauma kept there, and you might not know until the person needs to begin to prove himself, like he has said. Perception, how do you say it now? Perception, process, and the end point. So when you get to that process, the trauma is going to hold him down. And you can be beating that child, and you will not know. The child might not even know. Even the parents who architect or who engineered that, you might not even know. They might also be a victim of their own past. So a whole lot of us are trapped in that. There is this thing we call adverse childhood experience. It's what happened to you from age 0 to age 18. And they now begin to influence you negatively as you grow. So upbringing is very, very key. I'm happy that you mentioned it first. And the family and the parents have a lot to do, especially in this mental health stuff. But you see, the challenge for my practice, the challenge is that when someone is brought to you, they want to say, this child is bad. I say, don't use that word inside here. We don't use the word bad. I still quoted someone yesterday that I'm a bad person. I say, you are not a bad person. You have unhealthy behavior. That does not make you bad. And we have to take that person, we have nothing, we just started yesterday. I have to take the person back to age 2, 3, 4 to begin to pick things that she never thought were part of her problem. So when we talk about mental health, we don't just look at it like that. Let's go back. Let's bring the person closer. Who are you? What's your meaning? Where's your direction, as you mentioned? A lot of young people do not have a direction. Or that they wake up today, live by the day, like he's saying. They just wake up in the morning, pick one thing, follow the next trend. By tomorrow, another trend is coming, they follow the next trend. And that's where they get into things that they shouldn't get into. But unfortunately also, the society is not helping. There's too much pressure on young people. Pressure to perform, to outdo the other, to achieve what their parents failed at.
Absolutely.
A lot of parents are pushing their children to achieve their own failure. To correct their failure through their children. No, now, you could not study law, but you intend to be a lawyer. So you now say, all these children, you must be lawyer. So you want to live your life through there, all those kinds of. So there are a lot of things that young people are going through. Thank God he's a researcher. He will know more because maybe he has more record and meeting more people. But from what I could see, young people are, I don't want to say they are endangered species, but the way they are going, a whole lot of young people, in the next 5, 10 years of their life, they will look back and wonder, what did I do? What have I done? Because social media is a fleeting thing. It's just moving every day.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
On what he said, when it comes to PTSD, I believe we all have one PTSD or the other. It depends on how or what experience it is. And so the main thing about the PTSD is that when a young person finds themselves to be idle, that is when all these PTSDs tends to shoot and start influencing their, mindset, their negative imprints of, reactions to things and whatnot. And, it's prompt to even push them to depression and all these anxiety disorders. So my belief is there is the nurture he mentioned, which is very key to raising a child. And I think it has not been that much an important key till this age, because this is when we need it most and this is when it's lacking most. And that's very, very unfortunate, because this day we are so, young parents, would I say, are so immersed in, the idea of just accumulating more and more and more and not paying more attention to the family, the stability, the standard. And so you find all the little PTSDs coming back to haunt the young person from the childhood, as he mentioned, and they prompt them to negative behaviors and whatnot. And
okay, and we'll come back to this discussion after the break. We are going to go on a short break, and when we return, the discussion continues. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Youth Connect on Trust TV. Coach, before we went on a break, he was talking about the upbringing, the family not checking the mental stability amongst themselves. Do you think families should start talking to their children about mental health? Absolutely.
That's why we will have a lot of results, because there's a daddy, the mommy, the children, normally they sit together and they discuss a lot of things. So that is where we begin to mentor. It's not just enough to pay school fees. It's not enough to provide food. That is just to sustain the body. That's good. But when we move out, when we face with challenges, how do we cope? Building values. Helping people to chart their future and then be mindful of their emotion. If you have a child who's always very excited, And you have been saying, sit down, you make too much noise, and suddenly the child keeps quiet and does not talk again. That's your problem. Don't think, God has answered my prayer, does not make noise again. Ask, check. Or if sometimes can be the other way. The child is quiet, then suddenly begins to run around. They say, what's wrong with this child? So we should be mindful. We should take record of all these things. But parents too need to have understanding. You cannot teach what you do not know. And parents too, the truth is also that we parents are also product of a particular family engineering system. Some of us also came from traumatized home, and it's difficult for us to pass across something without throwing that trauma into those children. So the family needs to learn on how to handle themselves as a family unit, and it will help each child when they move out. Some parents are trying, actually. A lot of parents now are coming for parenting training. You know, we were born, nobody trained us to be parent. We were just born like that, and we just give out, and we are using native knowledge, you understand? But some people are now finding it necessary to, attend the seminar, attend this short training, and all those things. That's part of it. And mental health can actually scatter the family. I'm telling you, if you know how many young people are in rehab center in this Abuja alone, you will scream.
But do you think it is mostly because of neglect from the family also?
Neglect, yes. But sometimes now, some parents have done all they need to do, but did not prepare their children for the outside world. You do everything for them, take them to school. You are not actually helping them, but you think you are taking care of them. Now, suddenly, at age 17, they are in UK. They're in Canada. They have to fend for themselves. They don't know how to defend themselves from people who have different opinion. And now they meet with people. And sometimes they share room with people that they don't know. And the guy is coming also from whatever background. And suddenly you see children putting their fingers into crime that you never thought they could do. What led to it? So we have not prepared them to stand. Some children have never trekked 1 kilometer before. They only seen a pep. They don't know what it is. And suddenly you now have to travel, and nobody's taking you to school. You have to take yourself to school. You have to enter bus. You have to interact with people of diverse opinion. And then they're stuck. They're stuck, and they don't know exactly what to do. And the next thing that is not like an outlet for them, most of the time, is drug. They feel high.
They fall back to it.
No, it might be the first time. It might just be to use and just feel cool. You know, friends will just, don't worry. When you take this thing, you go calm down. And after that calming down, I actually calm them down initially before it becomes a problem. Okay,
so I would like to add to what you just said. Do you think, or should I say rather, I'll ask a question. Do you think peer group has more influence than parents when it comes to issues like that?
Yes, because peers speak the same language. Parents and children don't speak the same language. But peer, they can communicate, and you don't even know. Parents will be lost when peers are talking. And they want this sense of belonging. Why do you think sometimes online bullying works against people? This is somebody you have not seen. And the bullying, we have read of cases of people committing suicide from online bullying. Bullying, you have not seen this person. So why are you dying because somebody you have not seen? It's because they want to feel accepted. And so when somebody probably body shame them or do something, it gets to them because that person is in their peer group. If you say parent, they will just block you. But if you say in their peer group, it gets deep to them. So the peer is very influential, positively or negatively. That's why when talking about positive fear and peer influence now, it will work well. Negative is too much. Let's now begin to help them to do positive peer influence. So peer group is strong.
Okay, Abdulrahman, let me come to you. Would you say the current economic situation can actually cause mental stress among youths currently?
Absolutely. But before I answer that, I'd love to just take it back from where he mentioned that parents need to start talking to the kids about mental health, which question you raised. I believe, talking is very important because we cannot achieve whatever it is we want to achieve without intending, and intending starts with, having the thought and then maybe saying it and perhaps acting upon it. Yes. So, but I believe talking is not just enough. I believe parents should also start, becoming involved and engaged in their children's affair since from their childhood, because that is when the child needs guiding and the best of nurturing, as he mentioned. That is when they need it, because when you do you build the right foundation for them, as he mentioned, when the child goes to the public, into the society, that is when the society gets to teach them in different manners, in different ways. That is when they get to learn, oh, so people from different backgrounds have different opinion on things I believe, things I've known, things I have learned for over, the decades I've lived in my life. So I believe it's not just enough. I'd always advise parents to take their children out, show them some things, go to exercises with them, perhaps, teach them to do things that are meaningful. Myself, as a farmer, I would advise a parent to take their kids to farm, or maybe start backyard gardening or something. That is something that is very therapeutic. And why is it that we've never heard our grandparents discussing, or actually, now if we go and find our grandparents and start talking to them about mental health issues,
they don't even know what it is.
They won't even understand
they
won't understand what you're saying. And the reason is because during their days, the girl was raised to know how to go to the kitchen, do the chores and whatnot. The boy knows how to go to the farm, go to run errands, and before he or she becomes a man or a woman, they have learned that I am purposeful in life, and I am a man worth, being or
becoming whatever.
Thank you so much. So that is the main, coming back to your question, the economic situation has a lot of negative impact on a lot of things, not just the mental health of the young people, but also the economic stability, the social stability, the security, a lot of things. But when we skewed it down to mental health, yes, it will absolutely. But I believe before there's a book, I believe it's Christensen, someone Christensen wrote Prosperity Paradox. It's a book that he tries to, espouse why you shouldn't emphasize on just, growing the baseline that is lacking, but try to bring innovations into the society first, because it's innovation that will create more opportunity and people would have, more creative mindsets. So when it comes to youth and mental health, I believe what we should think of is what ideas should start being introduced to the young people, so that they will start being innovative instead to be idle, do nothing, run to the next opium, as in drug, whatever, internet. Instead of that, what should I be doing? Should I be crafty? What do I know? What skill do I know? What skill should I learn? To be creative. So I believe the economy is, yes, very much negative when it comes to mental health, because a lot of them will start, and I'm sorry to say, we are now in an age where the young people are being termed as the microwave age. They just want to, they just want to make it now. And it's not easy to just make it now. So they try businesses and then they just blame everything on the government. Now the Buhari administration is not doing well. The economy is not, now it's cashless policy, and that is why my business is not doing. But the truth is, have you had a very well documented business plan? Did you do your research well? What's your SWOT analysis? All these little things are lacking, and then we're blaming the government, we're blaming the economy, we're blaming Africa as a backward society, and which is very, very wrong, to be honest.
Okay, thank you very much. Coach, let me come to you. When we talk of mental health, a lot of times we only look at what are the causes, but there are other causes like bipolar disorders, there are anorexia, there's bulimia, there's suicide. Exactly. Yeah. What are the clinical causes of these issues?
Clinical causes. Now you mentioned you mentioned genetic when you started. Now, this economic thing you just mentioned is also a precursor. They are triggers. All of us are living with triggers. There are things that are in our subconscious that does not come up until something triggers it. You will not know how violent you'll be. You don't know how pressurized you are until someone says something to you that clicks something in your brain and you begin to fight. And you asked, this person doesn't normally fight. So why is he fighting today? Somebody said something that triggered something, and then you are fighting. And that can be a beginning of you living anxious life, becoming demonstrating anxiety over everything. Now you want to go out, your area is not safe. Something triggers in you. Or you came out in the morning, you saw boys, everybody's holding gun or whatever. Your normal self will not respond, but what they are holding is triggering you that you also need to defend yourself. That could lead you to develop anxiety, and then in that process, you can become unnecessarily aggressive. Then, this thing starts with stress. Stress is always the entry point into poor mental health. Stress is, there's stress, there's eustress. Eustress is the positive one. The distress is the negative one. So if you have a lot of distress and you are not able to cope, maybe in your work, or you go home every day, you face traffic, and you get home, there is no light, and they eat everywhere, you are not in your normal frame of mind. So the work you're supposed to do, maybe you do something before you go to work in the morning, you are not able to do. So your stress increases, and at the point you might say, what is all this? And you begin to go into depression.
Okay, quickly before we go, at what point should one tend to seek medical help when you notice that maybe there are some behavioral changes within yourself, telling yourself the truth? At what point should one stand up to look for help for themselves?
Everybody knows the point that they become abnormal. Everybody knows that this is not me. This is not how I behave normally. At that point, you notice that this is not me. That's the point you need to seek help.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I wanted to actually ask, you want to add something?
I just want to add.
Yes.
So he mentioned when the triggers that brings back the insecurities that we've all been living with, and you wouldn't know when the triggers will just push one to just, react or, act on, an impulse. So I believe that point so self-awareness is very important.
Yep.
The first thing is, each and every person needs to be self-aware. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? These are very key to even living in this modern day society, because without knowing your weaknesses and your strengths, you wouldn't know where you fit best. Which social group do I fit with? Which kind of category of people, of belief, of what you have to be self-aware. So that self-awareness, I believe, is when you get to realize, okay, I have so and so insecurity that descended from so and so point, maybe at so age got traumatized and whatnot. So that particular point is very, very key for any person to start thinking of getting help, getting things that would help them.
Okay, thank you very much, Abdulrahman Saibo.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Coach Jeff. Well, this is all we have for you today. Do join us again next time for another interesting episode. I still remain Fatima Ahmed Musa. Bye for now.